Hey everyone, Scott Hansen here from NFL Red Zone. I hope you're checking out 1 hour of 5 Yard Rush, one of the best podcasts on NFL football in the UK.
What is happening, Rush Nation? We are back. We are back with our usual Thursday show, and it's good to be back. We're halfway through the fantasy regular season. We're on the back nine. We're gearing up towards the fantasy playoffs, and we know now that this is the time where everything makes a difference. We're either going to be the work we do now is either going to crown us fantasy champions in January, or it's going to leave us ruining our mistakes and lack of chutzpah and lack of energy to get there. But as always, to talk us through and to get us ready for this week, I've got my illustrious co-host, Danny. Danny, how is it going for you, my friend?
Yeah, all good. It's nice for us to be on time this week as well. we were a day late and hours late.
Yeah,
all good.
It's been a crazy time here, but I'm
good except for getting over last weekend's being 19-0 up after the first half, and then well ahead going into the last quarter and throwing the game away. Except for that, it was good.
But you've got to be used to it now as a Giants fan.
100%. But when you're staying up late just to watch the end of it, and then with like 5 seconds to go at like near 12:30, 1 o'clock in the morning on a Sunday night, it's not the best way to start the next week.
Even worse when you've got Ireland's Great Hope getting cut this week as a result of his two missed.
He's been picked up again by them, hasn't he, today, and put back on the practice squad as well.
Yeah, on the practice squad. But it's going to be Young Hoku now for
living in Ireland. Like, it's some of the lads would be mentioning them because, like, one of my mates is up from not far from where he's from, and he was delighted a few weeks ago. And then I had to message them last week saying he's just missed to like the biggest, most important kick of the season. Has literally killed the Giants season in one kick, and then the next day he was cut.
Yeah, and it's a strange one, right? Because you're just sitting there thinking, like, what more could he have done?
Yeah.
How do you overcome that? Like, in terms of, obviously, I know what more he could have done. He could have made the kicks, right? Point after attempts. But he wasn't really put in a great position to succeed to start with. And, all these people that chime on about it's kicking an extra point, it's easy to do, and it should be automatic. It's your job, and I get there's an element of that is true, but it is sad from a UK and Ireland NFL perspective that we have lost someone who was starting to get a bit of traction in the NFL because of the fact that he has missed kicks. But then at the same point, you have to be a little bit ruthless in some parts of the job. It is a ruthless business. When you got someone like Young Hoku behind who has done a reasonable job in the NFL, you're not going to get too many great opportunities, and it's a tricky one. But for him, and
my only thing would be is that does it send out the right message though? You're like one mistake and you're gone. So like it's potentially putting future kickers under that extra bit of pressure as well, knowing if they make one mistake that they could be gone.
But that's not true of every organization. I give you an example. Yeah. Trace McLaughlin this year started the season pretty terribly. He missed extra points. He missed field goals. The guy's paid a lot of money for the kicker position. He's in the top 5-6, I believe, at the position.
Yeah.
Don't ask me if that's slightly off, but I don't feel he's too far away from that. And he started badly, and then he kicked a 65-yard field goal outside.
That's the thing, like
history, and
it feels like he's being used as a scapegoat a little bit for the bad coaching for the game in the last 15 minutes or so of that game.
And the coaching was horrific, right?
That should be but he's basically saying it's not my fault, it's the kicker's fault, and he's trying to push, instead of taking ownership of it, he's trying to push it onto somebody else.
But this is why I talk about this over and over again. Bad organizations continue to be bad because they do make these sorts of decisions. Now, I'm not saying it's the wrong decision either. Like but at the end of the day, you've got experienced kickers behind. You have to point after attempts is something that should be fairly automatic. You miss one, you probably go, okay. You missed two in a game.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm transferring this though to other walks of life as well. Like where I work, I go in as a consultant, and I'm working in a location where all they do is blame each other for absolutely everything. Sure. So when something goes wrong, they actually don't tell each other about it because they know they're going to get the blame for it, and it builds up the wrong culture in the whole place, and it's just.
I'm a big believer in this line of thought that blame cultures don't work, and
no, they don't. Definitely not.
There's a great book. There you go. I'm going to put my business head on called Black Box Thinking, which is a phenomenal book, and it basically is one of those things where it's exactly as you say. When you've got a blame culture, people cover their own backsides. You never get the truth, and you can't actually improve.
Yeah, 100%.
Uses this analogy of the airline industry and the NHS. So the airline industry with the black box, the idea is as long as you haven't done anything that's criminal, you're effectively given I don't want to say a pass. That's probably not the right word, but effectively there isn't we're out to get your job. It's you cooperate with the investigation fully. You do everything that you can do to keep, and you'll basically keep your job, unless there's negligence or criminal activity at play, then all bets are off. But if it's a case of you've made a small mistake, or if it's a case of, something went wrong, they want to know you're dealing with technologies worth X, Y, and Z. We're well off topic as we always are. But the NHS, which is just you should sue everybody, and then no one gets to the end of it. Well worth recommending it, but this isn't book club. This is the NFL, and as much as there's blame culture and everything else, the ramifications are pretty simple. That you have to do your job, and you're accountable for that. And if you're not, then these things can happen, especially when you're organisations that have shown that loyalty is not important, and we've seen the way that the Giants operate over the last few years. But it's going to be very interesting to see this week how the Giants respond against the Eagles and how they bring this about. I still think the ball and Schoen are 1 foot out the door. I don't think you're going to. I think Jackson Dart is doing some things that show some promise, but we've seen this story before, and we know how this story ends. So it will be interesting to see how they get on, but. From the context of fantasy football, the same thing happens. We have 7 weeks now to make some good decisions. If you're in a league with trade deadlines, you have 3-4 weeks maybe to make decisions that are going to play out the rest of your league. So tonight we're going to look at those situations. We're going to try and analyze some positions where there are some potential players you could trade for. You can look at some players who, potentially you can trade that are effectively trade high candidates. We can also just do a little bit in just terms of how you should be structuring your bench over the next few weeks with the buys.
It's not easy as well to do trades in redraft this time of the season. So it's more, for me, it's more around not necessarily who to trade who for. It's more around how to have the conversations with the managers to try to get the trade done. Because it feels like at the moment that you can send tons of them in and no one is responding to a lot of them. Whereas
I don't know how you have a conversation around a trade. Like I'll be honest with you, like there's 3 outcomes to a trade, which is accept, decline, or counter. And
I suppose my
fourth is or no answer, which how sort of accessible is that player? Like how much do they really care? Like if they're not even bothering to respond to trade offers.
Well, I was trying to get one done at the moment, and it's a little bit different than the normal one because it's got quite a few IDP slots in it. So it's one of the Patreons, James, and I literally took over this team, and I haven't had 2 proper running backs the whole season. And I'm trying to fill a gap now. And one of his running backs is on the block. So I've basically messaged him saying, like, who do you want? Because I need a running back badly. And I've got loads of IDP players there that he can look through, and they might be worth more than the running back that I'm going for. But I need one.
Why aren't we talking? We're in the same league.
I know, but I looked at your team. I'm winning the same division as well, and so I wasn't sure whether.
Oh, right, here we go. Yeah, fine. I mean, but I've got loads of running backs, and I need IDP players. I'm your perfect trade partner.
Yeah, well, we'll have a look maybe after this. I only literally messaged them about an hour ago, so we just started chatting about it.
Rule number one of trades: find the perfect trade partner for you. It's just the person that's strong where you're weak and weak where you're
little
strong.
Mini leagues of only 4 teams, and at the moment, I think I'm second and you're third in that mini league. So
neither of us are winning the division. Yeah. Neither of us are winning the division, so it doesn't matter. I'm not trying to win the division. I'm just trying to
relegated. That's
exactly that. We're both trying to just avoid relegation, right? That's all that matters. So, that lesson to everyone here. You got to line up your trade partners. You got to find the person who's strong where you're weak and weak where you're strong. I tried to get a few trades done. Someone put Puka Nacua on the block earlier in the season. Hello, how's it going? Welcome to joining. Got a few other things. We'll answer the questions. There's a couple of questions in the chat. We'll get to those in a second. Someone put out Puka Nacua out on the trade block, and I guess they need some players. A very short running back. Put an offer, structured it as a 4 for 3 kind of offer, and I really strengthened a number of positions, and it was rejected. I went back with a second offer that hasn't been looked at since. And you're just sitting there thinking like,
yeah, what's the point?
Like you've teased him as on the block, and I messaged him as like, we can't be far off. Like, you're basically trading one player. I'm giving you 3 starters to your team. 3 for 1 feels pretty good, and I'm giving you a depth piece. I'm asking for a couple of depth pieces back that aren't starting. They're just there for insurance to fill the roster, because I can't fill them from there. You're going to have to drop people, and I need to fill the roster I'm losing if I'm losing 4 players. It kind of feels like, how far you willing to go. And I'm quite an aggressive trader, and I don't tend to really nickel and dime. I put offers out there that I think make sense. But I think in redraft, the fear factor is so true that people are so shackled, shackled by fear. People are absolutely shackled by the idea of getting a trade wrong. And I just think if you play with that much fear, you're not going to win anyway. Because even if you don't trade, even if you do trade, if you play with that much fear, you're going to play a conservative lineup. And when you get into the playoffs, it's those conservative lineups that will kill you. When you're in a 1-week shootout, you can't play conservatively. You can't sit there and go, oh, okay, I'm just going to take floor points. Like, it doesn't work. And so when people don't trade in redraft, I'm sitting there thinking, and people say, oh, it's harder to get trades done. It's hard to get trades done because there's a mindset that it's hard to get trades done. Like, it's not that that should be any different. If anything, there should be more trades in redraft because it's a shorter period. You don't have this long expansive. If you make a mistake in redraft and your season's done, it's done. Like, you go back to the score, you go back to the drawing board next season. You don't have to pay for that mistake 2, 3, 4. Like, imagine if I did a trade with someone and I traded for Justin Jefferson in his rookie year. That man is repeatedly regretting that trade every single season that I have Justin Jefferson balling out on my roster.
Yeah.
And you sit there, and I didn't pay a lot for him, by the way. And you sit there and you think, I think it was the rights to draft Justin Herbert and Justin Jefferson for the rights for this person to get Tua. Like, if you look at that on a comprehensive view now, that has panned out appallingly, and you've got to live with that. But in Dynasty, people think that's okay. I can keep going and it's fine, and I'll keep trading. And I think, why is that mentality not in redraft? It doesn't make any sense to me. I think, like, you've got the players there, you've got this ability to do that, and if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. Like, your season ends, it's fine. If you've got a load of money on the line, I get the conservativeness. By the way, like, if you're playing for $100, $200, $1,000, $5,000, like, different ball game, right? But if you're playing for very low stakes or no stakes,
I do get the feeling that people look at where they drafted them a lot of the time, and they can't get their head out of that idea. There's like, I got him in the 2nd round, but I'm trading for someone who you got in the 5th round.
100%, and they don't understand the fact that the value is fluid and it changes every day. The second,
who's playing better? That's all that matters.
We got some questions in the chat. Bench 1 PPR, DJ Moore, JCM or Gadsden. It's Gadsden for me, first of all. Like, I just look at this and say, I look at that and just think, I know Gadsden has had a good last couple of weeks, but I just think both those players are in better spots this week, and you're trying to feed 4 mouths. Unless it's a tight end premium, it doesn't look like it's just standard PPR. I'm probably benching Gadsden. For me, it just feels like you've got 4 mouths to feed. There's 7 targets, 8 targets that will go his way. Maybe he gets 7 catches, but I don't see the heroics that we've seen recently. George C's asked, "Do I trade Krosky Merritt for Ken Walker?" This is a good question. I'm. If you'd asked me this a week or two ago, I would have said absolutely. But I am severely concerned about Ken Walker. And I said this in the Patreon cast.
Yeah, Charbonnet got the 2 touchdowns, didn't he?
Right. So let me read the box score from, not the box score, but let me read you the line of thinking from week 7. Right. Zach Charbonnet, 51% of snaps. He had all 3 touches inside the 10. He had the touchdowns. And then versus Ken Walker's, we look inside the box score. It's not particularly great. And the way that it's trending for him, it hasn't been particularly healthy. Like, it's not terrible. If you've drafted him, I wouldn't say, like, he's a solid drop. But the snap share was 51% Charbonnet, 43% on Monday night. It's a tight game, by the way. Charbonnet got all 4 high-value touches in this game. And then he got all the touches inside the 10. Charbonnet ran routes 37% of dropbacks. Ken Walker ran routes 31% of dropbacks. And yes, Ken Walker did out-touch Charbonnet, but it was 17-14. It's a bit too close for my liking. The other thing here is that Ken Walker had a rushing yards over expected of minus 19. Zach Charbonnet had a rushing yards over expected of plus 10. So I'm looking at this as a pass-first offense. You're looking at, they do run the ball with good volume, but it's very much a 50-50 backfield. Whereas I look at Krosky Merritt, and I think Krosky Merritt is ascending into a really strong position. And you've got to understand that the last couple of weeks haven't been great, and there's a reason for that. This week, 52% of snaps. That's low, right? It's not great. But they were getting absolutely smashed.
Yeah.
And they pulled him. They let Chris Rodriguez out there to go, okay, off you go. Because there's no point otherwise. Like, at the end of the day, you don't want to play and run Krosky Merritt all the way out. And again, Rodriguez got all the work late. They just pulled they pulled Krosky Merritt. And again, we're looking at this situation. When Jaden Daniels comes back, this offense will be better. When receivers come back, this offense will be better. And when it's better, Krosky Merritt will be at the heart of it, and we'll go back to what we saw at the beginning of the season. So a lot of flux in an offense that's changed quarterbacks, that's changed, receivers. That we've got the 2 receivers that might play this week, but Mariota's going to be playing. I think Krosky Merritt, you might get a down week this week, but Ken Walker's not playing this week. So it doesn't matter. You get more points over nothing. If
you look at the playoffs as well, he's got the Giants in 15, Eagles 16, and Dallas 17,
which is as good as it gets.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, if this guy, a lot depends on. It shouldn't do, but it will depend on his win-loss record at the moment. Potentially, if he needs wins now, or whether he's planning more for the end of the season as well. But looking at the fixtures there, you can't get any better than that, really, can you?
Yeah, I'd be happy to just keep Krosky Merritt. I wouldn't be trading him. And he's come back with a second question here, George, which is, and George, we're answering your questions, so please give us a like and subscribe. That would mean a lot. Speaking of upside, in half PPR, would you rather flex McLaurin, Krosky Merritt, Matthew Golden, or Tez Johnson? I'm ruling out Matthew Johnson, right? I talked about him on the Patreon cast, which you can get access to below. You can try it out for a week. This week's Patreon cast is there, and all the other previous Patreon casts.
You've just said a mixture of 2 names. Then you said Matthew Johnson.
Oh, sorry, Matthew Golden. So Matthew Golden, I'm out on. Right, he's not a. It's Romeo Dobbs. It's Romeo Dobbs' show. It's not Matthew Golden, and I'm not going to repeat what I said on the Patreon cast in full. But I feel like that Matthew Golden was a player who has been taken for talent, but doesn't fit scheme. And they haven't found a way to fit Matthew Golden's strengths into the scheme that they run. And when I look at longevity, I think Matt LaFleur's there long-term. Jordan Love's under a big contract. He's there long-term. They're going to have to figure out how to get Matthew Golden into this offense. It does surprise me. I think when you've got a weapon that's that good, why have you not got him into the fold more? And it says, I don't think they know how to yet. I think they'll figure it out. In Dynasty, I wouldn't be overly concerned. But in redraft, he is a bust this year. He might come good at the end of the season. He probably will, but I don't think you can start him now.
And they've already had the bye as well, haven't they? So it's not like they can go off.
Exactly that. You can't, normally you'd say like after the bye, mid-season bye, post-bye, boom. Hasn't happened. Yeah. So it says to me that I can't see a pathway to him right now. This could change when Jaden Reed is back. So now you're looking at upside, right? So you got McLaurin, Krosky Merritt, and Tez Johnson.
Even fit? Is he fit?
McLaurin's practicing today, so we'll see what happens. But he's tied to Marcus Mariota. I don't love it. So then you got Krosky Merritt or Tez Johnson. If I'm playing upside in a half-point PPR league, I would probably play Tez Johnson, knowing it depends a little bit on Emeka Egbuka. I think if Emeka Egbuka is good to go, that would lower me a little bit. And I think he will be. But I think that I look at that and I think if I'm playing for upside is the key word here. And I'm trying to find a player who's going to get me 18 points or more. McLaurin would normally be that guy. First week back after several weeks out, tied to Mariota. It's a risky play. We don't even know if he's going to play. Krosky Merritt, I don't think it's all right. He's just put I'm 2-5. Yeah, first of all, I would probably be trading a little bit more. But yeah, the thing is, and again, 2-5 is dangerous because if you'd said like 3-4, I'd be like, yeah, go with Tez Johnson. What's the worst that could happen? 2-6 is hard to come back from.
Could he package two of those players up to go and get one stud?
Well, that would be the question I would have. Like, if you can package a Tez Johnson and Krosky Merritt, maybe not for Ken Walker, but if you could package those guys up, I don't know what the rest of your roster is, but I'd be looking around. I think there's some great candidates that you can go out there and try and acquire.
Chris Olave.
Yeah, I mean, I gave a few on the Patreon cast this week, which again you can subscribe to for free for a week and check that out. But I'd be looking at Roman Dunze. I think the owners of Roman Dunze will be really sketchy. His last 2 weeks, he scored 5.2 and 5.1 PPR points. They're getting a bit itchy, like, oh, the bubbles burst. But actually, when we're looking at him, all of the data is trending upwards nicely for him. The thing that's gone wrong for him has been his catchable target rate, which is currently sitting at 42%. So I'm looking at that and thinking he's a player I would be looking to try and acquire while he's on a low value.
You can't get any trades done now. The main thing here is be patient and just listen for news, isn't it? It's only Thursday. None of them play till Sunday. So if, say, McLaurin plays full training the next few days and he's getting good reports, then maybe you can punt on him. But then if he's only questionable, then maybe he's not the answer. So, like,
the thing is, this team is set up going forward, right? Yeah. Williams, Jefferson, Drake London, Javonte, Chase Brown, JCM, Terry McLaurin, Pearsall, Golden, Shakir, Gadsden, Fannin. Like, that's a better than 2-5 roster, really. It's just injuries. A bit unlucky injuries. You probably played a lot of high scores that have just kind of blown you out. You probably made a couple of start sits early that have been a bit difficult. Matthew Golden's not doing anything for you. That's the reality. Shakir, he's a steady Eddie at best, wide receiver 3 play.
Pearsall's not been fit, has he?
Pearsall's not been fit, and then Terry's not been fit. So the wide receiver rooms are you got Jefferson and Drake London. Drake London's been a bit hit and miss. I think he'll come good. I would
probably need to run him back. Looking at that list, though, nearly all wide receivers,
especially if Javonte falls off and Chase Brown's a low end RB2 that will have some upside in certain weeks, like this week.
I get why he's looking at Walker. I get why he's looking at another running back. It's just he's probably not the one. Like, he probably needs to package maybe JCM up with one of those wide receivers and go for a better, more consistent running back.
Yeah, and I'd be adding Monangai from waivers if he's out there. You'd have to think that DeAndre Swift is questionable to play this week. The trend is already going to a 50-50 backfield. And then if that doesn't happen, then very much a case of Monangai can really sort of take over. So, I'm looking at running backs here that you could potentially be looking to acquire based on schedule and other pieces. I think Saquon Barkley is a buy low candidate that's primed to break out at some point in the season. I would say that Derrick Henry is in the similar boat. And I get that those two will be very, I don't want to say difficult to get, but they have a big name without the big production. So if you're kind of thinking you don't have the time to wait for Bucky Irving, unfortunately, which is quite annoying. So you're in the realm of probably looking at a Travis Etienne, where the bubble has burst a little bit, but I think he's going to be okay. Or you could try and be really bold and try and go for a Quinshon Judkins, which might be a hard trade to do. So I'd be sitting here thinking, how do I get to where I need to get to? I'd be packaging up JCM and
Scatter. I like Scat. Go for Scatterbo.
Yeah, I think he's gonna be too hard to trade for. That's my problem.
What about?
I don't think anyone's trading him. Like I just don't see anyone.
Smith on the waivers, I wonder.
Yeah, Brashard Smith. Again, I don't see a huge upside play here. Like I think you need like a showstopper. You need a top 12 running back. With Javonte's great until he blows out, and then Chase Brown isn't going to hold your season together. So
what about someone like Jalen Warren? Like he wouldn't cost too much, and people don't rate him as highly.
My worry with that is I think he's like, if I tear up at wide receiver, running back, I have to give Jefferson or London the package. No one wants Terry or Pearsall since they've been injured.
I'd give London.
No, but I think JCM is in the conversation. You're tearing up, but you're not having to tear up as much.
I'd go Drake London if you want a top running back, swap him for Drake London.
Yeah. I think that's a trade that you can get done, and I'd be looking at Judkins. You could try Scatterbo. I think he's going to be the harder of the two to trade for.
London for Henry or someone.
Yeah, and Henry's a good one to go for as well. The thing with Judkins, I think Judkins is genuinely in that offense until they make a change to suggest Sanders.
I just don't know if you'll get Judkins though, because the way he's playing is all of a sudden like people will be like, oh, he's the new shiny toy, and they're not going to give him up.
But I think with where people drafted him.
Yeah,
he's a luxury. He's a lovely luxury that people have right now. Same with Scatterbo to a degree, but I think Scatterbo is a harder one to get rid of because that offense is a bit more high octane. Whereas in Cleveland, it's not.
Yeah.
And I think for me, I look at Scatterbo. I think if I could give up JCM and Drake London for Judkins and a depth piece, that could really work because I think Terry McLaurin's going to come on fine in a week or so, and then Pearson will be back soon. And I think you'll be in an all right position. So anyway, we've answered a lot of your questions, George. So like and subscribe, really important. Another question: do I start Aaron Jones tonight?
It depends on the rest of your team.
Yeah, I mean it does. It does really depend on the rest of the team. I'm just not convinced he is going to come back and make a significant impact immediately. That's kind of my concern. Is yes, he's back, and that's lovely, but at the same token, like he was in the trend of losing the job to Jordan Mason. So I kind of been thinking about this all day. I had him to start the day at 51. I kind of have him hovering in the Ramondre Stevenson, Chuba Hubbard, and Tyler Algier range. Like I feel like that's the range we're talking about here. Yeah. Now, to answer the question without context, is that good enough to start in your team? If it is, you have to start him. If it's not, then it won't be. Like, the context of this, I don't know the rest of your team. But I'm telling you that I think he's a fringe running back 3. So,
yeah.
if that does it for you with all the buys and all the gaps, then sure. If it doesn't, then no. And that's probably the best way we can kind of answer that question.
Just going back to the last question, I was just seeing an update there from what's name, McLaurin and Debo, both full today.
Yeah. And I think they play, but then I ding them with the Marcus Mariota play this week. Like I think it's safe to say that I will be conservatively ranking them this week based on the play from Marcus Mariota. Like we've seen it with Carson Wentz. We've seen it with other quarterbacks that are just of that very ploddy, low-end quarterback to 24 to 28 quarterback of the week kind of play. That they're fine and they'll produce fine numbers, but are they going to produce showstoppers? They're the sorts of players that absolutely can. And it wouldn't shock me that if someone told me that Terry McLaurin's going to put up a top 12 wide receiver week this week, it wouldn't shock me. But at the same token, I'd lean more not. The question is it Aaron Jones or Alec Pierce? Again, without context of the type of scoring, if it's a PPR league, I'd probably take my chances with Alec Pierce.
I've brought in a lot of Pierce in this week to try and fill some holes. Like, it's not many on the waivers, but he's done well. He did well last week, and
but there was no Josh Downs last week.
I'm still not sure he's back though, is he?
Well, it was concussion, so I think there's every chance he will be back this week potentially.
Yeah.
So that's your, again, without the luxury of scoring, it's kind of hard to put on. Like, where I have Pierce right now is quite low. I have Pierce like in the 65, 66 wide receiver range. So, I don't love Alec Pierce this week because Josh Downs is back. So with that in mind, I'm less bullish.
Yeah, so I'm just checking now. 5 minutes ago, the update was Josh Downs practice fully.
Yeah, so I'm less bullish on Alec Pierce. So maybe I would, if they're the choices, and there isn't anybody else, I would probably start Aaron Jones, but I don't think either are great options. I wonder what is on your waiver wire that you could potentially look at to try and free up some to potentially start, because I can think of players off the waiver wire who I would probably most likely pick up and want to play instead. Jalen Coker, Marvin Mims. Let's have a look. I would Jalen Lane if he's still out there. There are three names, for example. I would probably try Devin Neal if he's still out there. Might be one I'd consider playing there or thereabouts. I don't think Jalen Knoll will still be out there, but if he was, he might be one. I would consider Tez Johnson. He's probably too far owned now, but he would be another. If you were really desperate for some production, I'm sure Trey Tucker's out there on waivers. He'll probably give you better production than both the guys there. Yeah, there's some names I'm throwing out there. Woody Marks has probably been dropped a lot. A player I think might usurp. So there's some names out there I would throw out.
Kendrick Bourne.
Yeah, Kendrick Bourne, definitely. I doubt he's out there, but if he is. Bootsy's a great one, actually. Yeah, hadn't thought of him. Half PPR. Do I trade away MPH for Henry and Henry for Kyron Wilson and Ken Walker, asking for rest of season? So, good question. We've already kind of covered Ken Walker, so go back and listen to that bit. Yeah. I'm just having a think. So you got Henry, trading Henry for Kyron Wilson or Kyron Williams.
That run that the Ravens have got for the next 7 to 8 games.
Oh, it's mustard.
I'd want Henry all day long for that.
Yeah, I don't think I'm doing it. Yeah, I think I'd probably hold Henry. I think Henry's primed for a big second half of the season, similar to what happened last year. So, yeah, I don't think I can get on board there. I don't think there's enough upside to make that trade. I think you're taking on a 50-50 back. Yeah, and yeah, I think a 50-50 back. And I love Kyron Williams. I don't think you're going to get many bigger Kyron Williams fans than me, but if I had to pick rest of the season right now, I'd have Henry over Kyron Williams. So yeah, I don't know if I'm there. The other thing is I have Lamar and Zay. So yeah, I would lean into that stack. I think that's good for the next 6 games. I know it's been a struggle, but they've got easily the best schedule in football over the next 7 weeks, and there's 6.
Getting all the players back as well,
and all the players are coming back. Lamar's going to come back. Say Flowers will fire again. I'd be leaning on that. A lot of these guys are gone. I'm in a 40-man PPR ADP league. Fair. So I guess Tyler, if you give me 2 minutes, I'll come up with some super deep plays I'd consider.
Josh Reynolds.
Oh, yeah, I don't know if I can get on board with that. Mo Diesel, do you believe in the 2 and 5 Cardinals are going to keep shooting for the playoffs? I don't so much think it's about shooting for the playoffs. It's shooting for Gannon's job. I think he has to show progress. And the Cardinals are a really weird team because they could be 7-0 and they could be 0-7. Like all their games have been, like all their losses have been like very, very close, small losses. Some of those losses self-inflicted. But for me, the sign of a bad team is a team that continually loses those coin flip games. The games that are within like 3-4 points or a score, if you lose those over and over again, that's a sign of bad coaching and a bad team. And a bad culture. Not bad as in like smashing the place up and things like that. But in terms of they're just not winners. I think you can lose close games. I'm not saying you can't, but to lose all your close games, the question has to sit, do you have the mentality to get over the line? And that's a tough thing for me who doesn't play American football, right? But at the end of the day, you've got to have a mindset. You have to win at least one of those games. Like if you keep losing those games. So I think they have to keep going. They have to keep going because the question marks will be on him. The question marks will be on Gannon and company. And that team could blow up in a year. You know, Kyler Murray could go or it could be benched. You know, Gannon could go. A few of those stars could go very, very easily. So, yeah, I think they got to keep going. I'll let you have first crack at this one, Danny, while I'm looking for deep stashes in a 14-team league.
Full PPR league. Chase Brown, Alvin Kamara, or Gadsden in the flex. So you've covered Gadsden already. Brown and Kamara. So looking at your rankings for this week.
And the ones you've got are a bit out of date, I should add.
Okay. Unfortunately. But some of them shouldn't change too much. So you've got Kamara, Kamara at 20, and you've got Chase Brown at 15. Brown's is playing against Jets, and Kamara is playing against your Tampa Bay. So I'm guessing where if I was you would be probably saying probably Chase Brown from those three. I would imagine, even though there's none of them are a particular. Yeah, I'd say Chase Brown out of the three.
Oh yeah, all day long, all day long this week with the momentum that he's built over the last 2 weeks, with the way that Joe Flacco is doing things right now. You've got a banged up Alvin Kamara against the Buccaneers, who will shut the run down. I know that Jameer Gibbs did a good job.
The Jets at the moment, 0-7 as well.
Yeah, well, I think they're trying to change things. The thing with Aaron Glenn is he's not going to let it lie. They've benched their quarterback. That tells you everything you kind of need to know, that they are still going to go for it. And they're a good team, but ultimately the Bengals still have a chance of making the playoffs, as unlikely as it is, with Joe Flacco at quarterback. They're still going to believe. And actually, you know, Johnson's on the hot seat a little bit. Like, it's been a few years since they've been in the Super Bowl. They can't just keep blaming injuries. And they put all their money in on 4 players. That's not entirely a coach's decision, obviously, but people are going to pay for that decision if they keep missing playoffs. Gadsden, as I talked about, again, it could be okay, but you're supporting 4 mouths there. Quentin Johnston wasn't fully up to speed last week. He missed the week before. That explained the Gadsden's uptick. I think Quentin Johnston's going to have a big role. I think Lab McConkey's going to have a big role. And I think Keenan Allen has probably the most predictable role of the lot. So the role where these uptick of targets are going to come from for McConkey and for Johnston are going to come from Gadsden. And I think, you know, Gadsden could get 6-7 targets. If he catches them all, it might be okay. But also, like, I'm not sure it will be absolutely, like, nailed on. So, yeah.
He must have a decent team now if all three, if he's only starting one of the 3.
Yeah. He must be in a pretty good spot. So, one to look at for sure. Right. If I'm going to look, and I'm just looking at, ownership ranks in 14-team leagues. Okay. and I'm looking at players I'd be considering over what is there, and ultimately there isn't tons, right? And I'm going to be honest. So if I'm not sure I can necessarily start any of these over Aaron Jones. If I had to come up with some names of players who I think could do better than Aaron Jones this week, the names are as follows: Alan Lazard, Jalen Naylor, Arian Smith. You can't tell me these guys will all be gone, because I think Arian Smith is rostered in 0.1% of leagues, Lazard 0.4% of leagues, Jalen Naylor 0.6% of leagues. I quite like the Smith and Lazard plays probably a little bit more against Cincy. That feels to me like there's opportunities there to get at them. I think if not them, the other players you could look at, DeAndre Hopkins. Again, puff schedule, Chicago, 5.6% owned. He could be a splash play. Maybe Yoshavas against the Jets. I mean, you're looking at a team that they could put points on. That Jets D's good, though, so I'm not necessarily thinking that's the one play.
Little Jordan Humphreys.
Yeah, I mean, he had that one spike week and then absolutely nothing last week. And I just think...
Well, how do you pronounce the other guy's name? Dike? Dike?
Yeah, I just don't want parts of the Tennessee offense. Thank you very much. I'll stay well clear. You don't want to be. They're the worst team in football. I don't really want parts of that anywhere. So yeah, I there's some name. Would I start? Like, for me, I guess it's how desperate. Like, there's a world to me that Arian Smith or Alan Lazard get over 10 points. That world exists to me. And so if it exists, then I sit there and think, okay, then if it exists, then it's there. I don't see a world which Aaron Jones does. It could happen. Of course it can. I don't see it, and I don't see it for anyone else. But there we go. Thinking of starting Addison over Pickens, thoughts. 12 targets with Wentz last game. I can tell you why he got 12 targets. Now, I've been pretty critical of Brian Flores' performance last week. I thought it was atrocious. I thought it was one of the worst called defensive coordinator games I've seen, I don't know, in a long time. No, probably not true. Definitely I can think of this season. I can't think of a DC who had a worse performance than that. Isaiah Rodgers took a lot of stick on Instagram for he was left in one-on-one coverage with AJ Brown time and time again, one of the best receivers in the NFL. Like, you get beat once. Okay, it's AJ Brown. It's not a big surprise. You get beat 2 times. You get beat 3 times. You get beat 4 times. Like, how many times do you get beat by AJ Brown one-on-one before you realize, oh, we should probably do something a bit different here because AJ Brown is killing Isaiah Rodgers? Well, yeah, no S. Sherlock. Like, of course he is. That's as big a mismatch as there's going to be. It's ridiculous. And Brian Flores just let it happen. What I will say on the flip side of that is I could also be, had they not won the game, be very, very, very critical of the Eagles and the way that they coach this game from a defensive point of view. Because I don't know, if you go and watch the tape of this performance and you look at all of the catches here available to Jordan Addison, they're simple out routes on the sideline. He must have caught 7 of them doing that. Vic Fangio was just like, yeah, you can have that. It's fine. I'm going to give you that open all day long. Because he did. Vic Fangio, if you look at Jordan Addison's like pass chart, maybe I'm going to pull it up, or Jordan Addison's reception chart, it's all pretty similar stuff. And I think my concerns is that I don't think that happens again. And so I think Pickens has got a tough assignment this week, but I want the high octane offense. Give me the guy who is absolutely like Dak Prescott's torching it this year, and I think I would much rather have Dak Prescott and his weapons than Jordan Addison. So like here, I'm going to pull the chart up, and you're going to see exactly what I mean, right? Because if this is why that's not repeatable. It's just the same route. except for this one and this one. This one he kind of cuts a bit later, and this one's a little bit more longer, which isn't completed, by the way. These dark grey ones are incomplete routes. These are the completed ones. And look at the yards after the catch. Nothing. 6 yards. Nothing. A yard. Nothing. 2 yards. A yard here. This is the only route for me that is like complex. It's the same route. Vic Fangio was like, that's fine. You can have your catch. Move the sticks. We'll deal with the rest of your weapons. So I can't have it again. I'm sorry. I just don't think that happens again. So I look at that situation and go, no. Give me Pickens all day long. Oops, I booted us off the screen. Good job, me. Where are we? There we go. And then he's asked Mason and Dobbins. By the way, give us a like and subscribe, Brian. That's 2 questions, so you owe us at least that. Mason or Dobbins? Good question. This week, obviously, with Mason, you've got that little bit of a concern of is a bit of work going against him and going away from him versus what you've got with J.K. Dobbins, which is pretty.
Dobbins is playing against Dallas, though, isn't he? And don't they concede plenty against running backs?
They really do. So I look at this situation and I would lean Dobbins. I think he's got that world all to himself right now, and I think I'd be pretty comfortable with that. I have Mason. I have him in my latest rankings, actually. I have them pretty much back to back. So it's like you're literally asking me to pick which one or the other. Mason has the upside, but JK has the floor, and he's got the better matchup. So there's a world where, like, for me, I could take J.K. Dobbins' points to the bank, and Mason could go over the top, or he could flatline a little bit. I think for me, it's where are you at in your matchup? Do you feel good about the rest of it? Are you a favorite to win? If so, how much of a favorite are you? If you are, maybe take the points. If you are chasing the game, you need a win, you need to get a big 20-point performance, then Mason is probably your play. And I think you're going to have to make it. Like, literally, I have him back to back in the sort of mid to low end RB2 range. Jordan Mason, to me, feels like the guy who could get over the top and get you like 18 to 20 points. Whereas I don't think JK is that guy, but I think JK banks you 12 to 15 and you could slam that, and you could pretty much write that in pen. So, but JK's upside is touchdowns. He could get multiple touchdowns. I don't think he will, but he could. So, yeah, that's my viewpoints on it. Lots of questions in the chat tonight. Loving it. A lot of first timers too. So please do give us a like and subscribe. That would mean a lot to us, because we sat here and we had a whole plan for a show, and then we had, basically not had to do it, which is fine. And we'd rather give some contextual advice. And I think we talked about a lot of the situations we wanted to go through. There was one player I wanted to talk about, Danny, and then I'm going to let you direct us where you want to go next, and that's Travis Hunter. I said this in the Patreon cast, and again, I keep directing to it, so point down below. Please click the link, and please just do a trial subscription. You get a week. Listen to the Patreon cast. Let me know what you think. Frosty says, yo, I'm sure there's a question coming. But shout out anyway. Yeah, let's talk a little bit about Travis Hunter. I am not a conspiracy theorist, right? I'm a rational, reasoned man who believes in logic and argument and conjecture and theory.
The bot.
But I can't help but feel that Travis Hunter, first round pick, was staged for the London game. I can't help but feel that this was as much a marketing ploy as it is like an actual performance, because he hasn't done much all season. He's not really been involved. The argument is, yeah, he was ramping up, and sure, it takes a bit of time to acclimatize, and he's learning multiple positions, and that is very much the logical argument, and might be the one, and that's cool. I'm okay with that. But I can't help but feel there was a reason why Travis Hunter absolutely balled out in this game and was the target of everything, and that is purely because it was the London game. And they're like, we've got a shiny new number one wide receiver. We're going to make sure he balls out in London because it's good for tickets in future years. Call me cynical, call me crazy. I don't care. I'm okay with it. I don't normally go out there with these wild theories, but there's a reason why he had nearly 10% more snaps in this game than any other game of the season. There's a reason he had 14 targets, which he's not even come close to, when he had nearly 30% targets per route run. And he had 119 air yards. You know what his previous high air yards was before this week?
Not much.
59. Call me crazy. I'm not buying that Travis Hunter has broken out. End of tape. I'm not buying it. I'm sorry. I'm not buying what the Jags are selling me right now. I don't think those numbers are real. I don't think they're going to last. I don't think they're sustainable. I think...
Well, especially if he's got Trevor Lawrence playing with him.
Well, I saw a funny thing on TikTok, and I don't spend lots of time on TikTok. In fact, I spend no time on TikTok, but I was on there, and there's a guy who's comparing NFL quarterbacks to fast food chains, fast food franchises, right? And then he got to Trevor Lawrence, and he said, what did he say? Oh, he compared Trevor Lawrence to Five Guys. Aesthetically pleasing, but when you get to the nuts and bolts of it, it's okay and very, very overpriced for what you get. And I was like, that's pretty good. The guy was great. He compared Joe Burrow to, he said, I can't name a fast food brand, but I'm going to name an item, which is the McFlurry, and more importantly, the McFlurry machine, because when it works, it's absolutely spectacular, but it's always broken. And I was like, that's incredible. Frosty going that nice little segue to from McFlurry's. BTJ and Henderson are the biggest flops. Henderson, I think, is fair. BTJ, I'm going to say, wait till the second half. Wait till the second half, because I think he's going to go. I don't think he's going to be what we drafted if you drafted him in the late first, early second. But I think he's going to be really fantasy relevant in the second half of the season. I'm just saying, watch out, because I think they will get better on offense, and it'll work out well for him. Should I trade Debo and Matthew Golden for Sutton? All day long. All day long. I'd smash accept that. I wouldn't even...
Sutton's a weird one, isn't he? Because Sutton's one that always does well, but loads of people don't seem to rate him that highly when it comes to trades and rankings and stuff. It's weird.
Yeah. Cortland Sutton is just like a unicorn. He's like the Invisible Man. Like no one respects him. No one does. But he's always banging numbers. Always banging numbers. Like he is... yeah.
You're looking at that trade and seeing that it's basically Debo versus Sutton, aren't you? Because you're saying Golden's not going to do anything.
All day long. I'm smash accepting it. I'm not even like, I wish someone would give me that offer. I honestly, like, let's just take last week, right? Last week, this is how good Cortland Sutton was last week against the Giants. 92% routes run on dropbacks. 10 targets, which tied with Troy Franklin, but a little bit of that was game script on Troy Franklin. Had 107 air yards, which is his A.dot's 10.7, which is fine. It's not outstanding, but it's not bad. 21% target per route run. I think a lot of that was the game script. I actually think that number would go up in a closer game. but his weighted targets per route run were 53%, which is decent. They're good numbers. That is I would almost argue, a down week for Cortland Sutton. Like, that's a down week. Like, I'm in all day long. Absolutely smash accept that trade. Like, I couldn't even get there. Rashee Rice, rest of the season, top 5 wide receiver. Can't get there. I can't get there. The guy counted with Debo and Jordan Mason. Do I still do it? Oh, yeah.
What other running backs have you got?
That's the question. I'd need to see more of that. So the question is, and the Frosty's joined in, is Rice the best receiver of all time? No. Rashee Rice, top 5. Yeah, I mean, yeah. Jerry, maybe. Yeah, Rashee Rice, top 5 wide receiver. Thought? No. Nothing against Rashee Rice at all. I think Patrick Mahomes, and I've said this for the last couple of weeks, I don't think Patrick Mahomes is a top 5 QB rest of the season in fantasy football. There, I've said it. At me in the comments. I don't care. I don't think he is. I've broken the numbers down. I've looked at it. He's scrambling a lot more than he ever has scrambled. He's got more rushing touchdowns than he normally gets. He is absolutely balling out in metrics that he doesn't normally ball out in, which is, i.e., with his legs. And actually, the rest of the receiving and the passing numbers, and I broke this down on the Patreon cast, is they're okay. They're not great. They're not bad. Like, they're fine. He's not playing with the arm at an MVP level. What he's doing is he's extending plays, he's scrambling, and part of that is some of the adjustment to the offensive line. I don't think he is a top 5 QB in fantasy football for the rest of the season. And therefore, if I don't think he is, I don't think Rashee Rice is a top 5 wide receiver for the same reason, that I just don't think the volume is there for him for the rest of the season to sustain the output of what we saw. I think this was a big statement. He's not going to get to play the Raiders every week. The Raiders were dreadful. Like, he's not doing what he did every week. I think he'll have a lot of spike weeks. I think he will be a top 12 wide receiver for the rest of the season. Absolutely. I think he is a great wide receiver. I think he is one of the better ones in the NFL for sure. But I don't think I can get there on top 5 rest of the season. I think he'd be top 10, maybe, but the bottom end of top 10. And that's where I'm at. Who do I think is number 1 for fantasy football quarterback rest of the season? So I still go backwards and forwards on this. I look at, in the immediate short term, it will be Lamar Jackson over the next 7 or 8 games. The only person I think who will beat that is Josh Allen, who I don't think has reached the ceiling that he did last year, but I think he will later on in the season. So I think those two are 1 and 2 rest of the season. I could make a case for both. I think the question is, here's what I'm going to say about the Ravens, okay? So not only do the Ravens have a great schedule over the next 7 weeks where I can see them winning 6 games. Did you see what they did in the locker room this week?
No.
They took all the games out. Pinball machines, any arcades,
they mean business.
PlayStations, everything ripped out of the locker room. That's a massive statement. Like, that's a massive statement. They are here to go, right. And their schedule in that division, they can win that division. They know it.
No.
They know they haven't got, when a team that good loses that many games early, it's like Liverpool in the Premier League, right? They've lost 4 in a row. Like, they're not going to continue to lose games. They're almost dangerous when they're in that position. Like, they're going to focus. The Liverpool had a player only meeting today. The same thing, right? They're going to focus. They're going to reset. And they're going to retrain. And I think they're dangerous. I really do. And I just think that there is a world that he goes lights out Lamar for the next 10 games. Like, I genuinely believe that is
my most owned player in Dynasty. So I'm hoping that's exactly the case.
Do I trade Lamb for Chase? I'd be getting Chase. No. No, because I'm just not convinced that Joe Flacco is going to play at the level. He gets the assignment now, throw the ball to Jamar Chase 20 times a game. If you told me that's what I'd be signing up for the next 10 weeks, then sure. It's Joe Flacco. No, thanks. I'd probably hold. I can see the appeal. I need more. JJ was a top 5 wide receiver with Darnold last season. Yeah, absolutely fair. I think the difference is that it was, and a lot of that I think was down to, I think JJ is a better receiver overall. I think he's also spent a lot of time in that scheme and that fit. And the assignment, I think, was very different. He's a huge volume receiver, which I don't think Rashee Rice is. So, yeah, I can see the counterpoint. I think the argument to that is you don't necessarily need the top 5 quarterback for the rest of the season to be a top 5 wide receiver, because we've seen pretty poor quarterbacks lead players to top 5 and top 3 and top 1 fantasy position. We saw Jamar Chase last week do it with Joe Flacco. My point is, it's volume. It's volume. The fact you've got Xavier Worthy there, you've got Travis Kelce there, you've got Brashard Smith is taking it. I think, they're not going to throw the ball 42 times a game, every game. And so when you're sitting there and you're dicing where the targets are going to go, I think Rashee Rice is capable of game-wrecking most weeks. I think he can have 100, 120-yard games. I'm not saying he can't. And again, I caveat this. I don't think he's top 5. I still think he's top 10. And I'm not saying Rashee Rice is crap. I still think he's a top 10 fantasy wide receiver in the league. I still think he's going to finish really highly. I just don't think I can get there on top 5. I just think there's other players with other ceilings of outcomes. If you were to sit here now and say, who would I rather have rest of the season, Emeka Egbuka or Rashee Rice? I'd probably take Emeka Egbuka, because I just think the Bucs will throw the ball a lot more. Their offense is a little bit more dynamic. He's got a little bit more of that sort of longer range, and he's the only receiver that he's going to really be contending with until Chris Godwin gets back. Probably won't happen. I would say that Rashee Rice is more consistent. He's the better wide receiver. I just think the scheme fit probably will hold him back a little bit. And then also as well, he's not played much in a while. And listen, he tugged it off and he did a great job against Oakland, but I don't think that he's playing Oakland every week. Just starred Pollard, Vidal, and Kincaid. I guess that means traded instead of stead. Pollard, Vidal, and Kincaid for May, Aaron Jones, and Myers full PPR. I mean, you're kind of hoping Myers gets traded. If not, yeah, I mean, it's nice to get May, I suppose. I don't know what the roster's like. It could be okay. I don't think there's a huge winner there. AJ Brown, Josh Jacobs, and Ladd for Puka and Judkins.
I know where you'd be on, yeah.
Oh, mate, I'm smashing Puka and Judkins. That's not even, done.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, done deal. I'd smash that. I'd smash that trade all day long. You're talking about potentially the wide receiver 1 in fantasy football. Again, that's the other reason why I don't think Rashee Rice is going to be the number top 5, because I think top 4 is going to be. I think top 5 for me is going to be Puka and JSN 1-2. Right, barring something happening. I think Lamb and Chase are in there. So you got one spot left. And then I'd probably take Jefferson over Rice. But there you go. I'm smashing Puka and Judkins for Ladd, Josh Jacobs, and AJ Brown.
Yeah, me too.
But then I think I don't know if that offer would go through. If it does, kudos to you. The bye week's going to suck this week, but you'll be okay. Man, we really got off topic here. I was gonna let you take the floor for a bit and talk about what you want to talk about.
That's the same question coming up, isn't it? Yeah, no, all I was going to say was the first thing that I was going to want you to talk about was, I suppose, is tonight's match, because that's what's pressing for most people, is when it comes to people that they're not sure about starting and stuff. That's the only one today, isn't it? So till Sunday.
Yeah. So let's get into the nuts and bolts of it. It's Chargers v Vikings. Chargers favored by 3. The over-under is set at 44.5. Where that over-under sits is a little bit on the low to par side. It's fine. It's not it doesn't make it a wholly appetizing game to really sort of grab and get hold of. So when I'm looking at a game like this, I'm thinking about we've got Carson Wentz. We know kind of what this offense is going to be. It's quite narrow. I talked about the running back position. I still think it's going to be Mason. I think you'll see Jones. I think Jones will have a factor in this game. He'll play X amount of snaps, probably, I don't know, 30% of snaps would be if I had to punt it, is where I think he'd be, 35%. I think he'll get maybe 8 touches of the ball. Probably seems fair. Maybe a bit less, maybe a bit more. But that seems like the number in the guide I'd go at, so it's why I'm not too keen on starting him. The guy said, "Oh yeah, I don't need." The trade went through, and I don't need Puka as I have Jamar Chase. Also, that's an unstoppable force. I want to play in these leagues. I don't ever get to play in leagues like that. Send me an invite. I'll come play next year. Clean up. So hit like and subscribe as well. By the way, before I answer your question,
they've just the Chargers have just elevated Hines and Patterson as 2 running backs from the practice squad as well.
Sure,
because they've really got Vidal, haven't they?
Yeah, so Hines will get a little bit of work. I'm not starting him anywhere.
Yeah,
Patterson, yeah, I'm not going anywhere near that. So I think it would be Vidal's backfield. I think, they're tough to run on the Vikings. I think that's going to be it'd be okay for Vidal. It would be an RB2 play this week for sure. I think both the starting running backs will be RB2s this week. So it comes down to sort of the receiving game. I look at the receivers in this game and think, well, I'll start with the quarterbacks here. So I'm not in on Wentz, as I've pretty much made that clear. So Wentz is, he's in a Superflex league. You're starting him. That's fine. In fact, I think I put JJ in. I think it's JJ. Oh no, these are my rest of season. That's why it looked off. I was like, what? I'm sure I didn't put him in there. Let's go. Sorry, I lost my...
You had Jefferson at 2 in the earlier in the week. I'm not sure where you've got him now, but he was ranked 2.
I don't think I've moved him. Or I think I moved him down 1, but yeah, so where have I got Wentz this week? I'll go through the players I've got in this game. So I have...
You had Wentz at 20 originally.
Yeah, Wentz at 20, so bottom end of the Superflex. Only because I've got Mariota, Gabriel, Dalton. And
there's only 26 this week anyway.
Yeah, so it's not particularly great, right? So I have Herbert at 11, bottom end of the quarterback ones. Mason. Yeah, Mason I have Dobbins higher. I looked at the wrong rankings earlier. So I have
1.
Yeah, so I have Mason at 19 and Vidal at 21, and I feel okay with that. I feel like that's a good place to be for me. And then I did move Aaron Jones up into that sort of bottom end running back 3 range. That's kind of where I've got him, sort of 37, 38 or so. So that's how I see the backfields going. And the only reason I've got Vidal low is it's not a volume play. It's just the Vikings D, I think, will contain him a fair bit. And I think that they'll force Herbert, and Herbert likes to pass over expected anyway. So I think you'll see more passes that way. Jefferson, I did have at 2. I actually moved to 3. Just ahead of Rashee Rice. Contentious question. I moved Lamb up 1. I just felt that Lamb might be in the move, so I got Lamb at 2, Jefferson at 3.
Well, for the players for tonight, you have McConkey at 13, Quentin Johnson 17.
Yeah, and then I have Addison at 24, Keenan Allen at 25. Yeah. And then I have Jalen Naylor down at 62 as one of those. He could do something. Desperation hopes. Don't love it, but I'm there. And then TJ Hawkinson at 18. I had Gadsden at 7. But I have him at 7 more down to the amount of good tight ends that aren't playing. And actually, there's a few question marks on a couple of the guys that if I knew that Juwan Johnson was fully healthy, he'd move up in my ranks. I'm still thinking if I knew fully about David Njoku. If I knew he was out, I'd move Harold Fanning Jr. up in my ranks. So there's a few players that I'm looking at Gadsden. I'm actually probably going to move Gadsden down to 10 because I'm actually going to be a little conservative here based on what I've said. I had him higher in the week, but there's just too many question marks. And the fact that it's the early game, I'm probably going to be a little conservative and have him at 10. So definitely a starter if you've got him. But yeah, I'm not sure. I can see a world where he scores 5 points. I can see a world where he scores 15. But Hawkinson, I'm out on.
DST wise, you've got the Chargers at 11 and you've got the Vikings at 14.
Yeah.
And then from a kicking point of view, you've got Dicker at 4 and you've got Richard at 12.
Yeah. Will Rackard. Yeah. So I think for me it's a low scoring game. I think Jefferson will do well. I think that the running backs will be a wash. I think you'll start them, but I don't think they're elite production tonight. And listen, I call these things wrong all the time. It's just how I see it. I look at the numbers. The over-under is important to me. If it's prospected to be a 50-point gain, then you have to look at it and evaluate it differently. But at the end of the day, you've got to try and think where the points are going to come from. I think that the Chargers will spread it out pretty equally. And I think that the Vikings will lean heavily on Jefferson. But I think Addison, we will see those routes that we saw last week, not into the same flurry of the amount, but I think you're going to see him get that sort of move the sticks rolls. And there's nothing wrong with that. The question is, that's a volume roll that could go away from him quickly, but there's also no touchdowns. There's no upside in that roll.
Yeah.
So the upside is he gets 12 catches, which if he does that, great. But I think this is a close game, over under 44 plus minus 3. It's scheduled to be a relatively close game.
Yeah.
So unless they're being blown out and that changes the concept of it, I look at this as this is quite a tight game. It's going to stay mostly one possession most of the game. And then people aren't going to go crazy. These aren't two coaches that throw everything and go crazy. These are very conservative minded coaches. Try and stay in the game, take it to the last possession, get the ball last, win the game last.
Yeah,
that's the mindset of these coaches. Not entirely, of course, you'd want to win it before the last possession, but they feel very comfortable getting the ball last and kicking a field goal to win the game. And that's how I think this game's going to go. Two coaches that will cancel each other out. Defenses are both very good. Both of them will do a good job. So yeah, I think if there's some good pieces there, I think you know who you're starting because there isn't any big shocks in terms of who to start in this game. There isn't like a big wild card here. Like we know Vidal is the guy. The only wild card is Aaron Jones, really. We don't know what that situation looks like. The rest of it's pretty trended out. And is Gadsden going to do what he has done the last couple of games? If you think so, you've got to start him. I'm a little bit more conservative, but I'm not sure it gets there purely because I think there's more mouths to feed, and I think Johnston takes a step forward, which is what I do in my rankings.
Yeah, it really depends the rest of your squad, doesn't it? From a Gadsden point of view, like if you've got some other tight end that you're ranking in the top 10, then maybe you're thinking twice about it. But if he's on, he still could be the best you've got this week with 6 teams on a bye as well.
Yeah.
Just one thing to point out for anyone listening that's in Europe, just remember as well that this weekend it's the clocks change. So it's 5 o'clock for us. So
the best weekend of the year.
Well, I was just going to say that was going to be my next point. Was it's the best week and it's also potentially the worst week, depending on which way you look at it as well. So for me, like if you've got kids and it's 5 o'clock instead of 6 o'clock, it's 1 hour where I've got to try and keep an eye on them and try and catch up with what's going on at the same time. Whereas the later, the more I watch it in peace. So it works both ways.
Yeah. And I love it because I think you get to watch all the
Mm-hmm.
games and you get to go to bed an hour earlier.
Well,
Great.
That's the selling point of the hour early into bed, yeah.
Yeah, I love it personally. I think
but it's just one to remember though, because some people forget the times and miss the deadline or something because of that 1 hour as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm trying to think if there's anything else we need to cover.
I'd gone through what's name. Some of them we've already talked about, but I just out of nosiness, I just had a look at expected fantasy points for last week's matches, and there was a few of them that jumped out at me. You were like, "Oh, that seems a bit high." So I don't know if you've heard Gadsden obviously went nuts, so he had an expected of 16.4, but there was some of the other ones, like Pierce was obviously, we've talked about Pierce as well with the Downs as back, because he was 19.6 expected fantasy points.
Sure.
So that's not sustainable. Troy Franklin, 26.6 expected fantasy points, and he got 10 targets.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm guessing if you looked up his thing, it wouldn't be potentially 10 good targets, but he got 10 he had 10 targets. Wan'Dale Robinson, 20.1. Leggett, 20. So these were just things I wasn't expecting to see when I was looking. I know like the Giants game was a bit of a shootout towards the end. So maybe
I think you can explain most of these away pretty easily, right?
Yeah.
The Giants threw the ball to Wan'Dale Robinson a lot more than they would to try and contain a situation that got out of control. And we're trying to just keep the clock running with short yardage, catchable passes. Makes sense in the situation when a team was kind of just running down its lock. They're not going to throw the ball as much as they did. I think they trusted against the Broncos. They trusted the ball in the air with high percentage catches.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what happened. And I think the reason his expected points is lower is because they passed in a lot of game script that you would expect them to run the football. So that's why his expected fantasy points is a little bit higher than normal. Troy Franklin, because on the inverse of that, in a chaos situation where they're chasing,
just go along.
And so he's getting a lot of targets that you're not expecting.
Yeah,
Pierce, they got a lot of success out of Pierce running a couple of varied routes of very similar nature. They found a wrinkle in the game plan and executed it very, very well with no Josh Downs. With Josh Downs back, he's not a thing. They just don't support 3 wide receivers. So
yeah,
it's not a knock on Pierce. I think he's a very good wide receiver, but he's a wide receiver 3 behind Pittman and Downs, and he's not going to flash when those 2 guys are in the lineup. And that's just the trend. When one of them is out
as well. Yeah,
and Tyler Warren, exactly that. So when one of them is out, then great, start adding Pierce. But if they're not, he's like probably the best handcuff wide receiver in the NFL.
And then
probably not, but he's up there.
There was 2 running backs that jumped out, unusual as well. Was Brashard Smith had 18.4 expected fantasy points, and Woody Marks was 19.1.
Yeah, Woody Marks didn't play last week.
I must have been a week back. It must have been a week before. Hang on.
Yeah, I was going to say he was on bye. The thing with Brashard Smith is the thing that's going with the Chiefs, that there has been a bit of a increase where the rest of the offenses, I don't want to say stagnate, it's not true, but where they're not singing too much is from the back's perspective, high value touches have increased quite significantly because they are finding a range of combination of running backs that they like, and Brashard Smith has had 3+ receptions in 4 straight games. So I look at that as a recipe for success. He will see an increase in terms of snaps because at the moment he's doing a pretty good job. He's in a really weird use case that he gets a high volume of his touches are high value touches. So in big moments, they tend to trust him more than they're trusting the likes of the other 2 running backs, which is quite significant. And again, this goes back to that Ken Walker and Zach Charbonnet. Zach Charbonnet gets a much higher percentage of high value touches in a game than Ken Walker. They tend to trust him in the situations that matter most. And that's the really key trend that we're seeing through 7 weeks of the NFL season.
I'd listened to a few podcasts with different people and read a few things. And when they were talking about Brashard Smith, they were saying about not necessarily the likeness as a player directly to him, but the way they play would be Jared McKinnon. The way that he would have got a ton of touchdowns in the last couple of years because he was the running back that could actually catch the ball, whereas the others were not as effective.
Well, I think Kareem Hunt can catch the football, I don't want to call anyone out, right? Because I don't know where that's from, right? And I don't want anyone to think that. I think that's a bit of analysis. The reason why is because Jerick McKinnon was that role. So it's like, there's one thing to say he stepped into the Jerick McKinnon role. That's completely valid because that's what he has done.
Yeah.
But to say he's like Jerick McKinnon,
well, I suppose that's what I suppose it was more the role I was talking about than the person.
Yeah, so there's a real key context here. One is comping him as a player, which I don't agree with. The other is comping the fact that he's playing that role. That does make sense because they have had that player the last few years, and that is very much what Brashard Smith is doing now. And listen, to great effect. It's going well, and I think his role increases. So, but I don't. As for why, his expected volume is up. In truth, I don't say I can. I don't know for sure. I just think for me, it's a case of he's getting the high value touches. He is the running back they trust in the key situations, and maybe that's why his expected fantasy points is a little bit higher than probably or he's outperforming his expected fantasy points. But the thing is, I think his role is sustainable. What I'd also say is at best, with the volume he's getting, he's not even a flex-worthy play right now. He's someone that we're hoping gets to that level. Yeah. I don't think he's there yet. And that's the other thing is we're talking about a player who I wouldn't say he's on the cusp of being fantasy relevant without actually being fully fantasy relevant. But we know that trend is going there, and that's why you want to add him. But I wouldn't be sort of concerned by what's happened previous as of now. And then Woody Marks, I think Woody Marks is the pass catching back. I think for me, Woody Marks is the best running back on that roster that's fit. We know what Nick Chubb is at this stage. There was a bit of reluctance to really hand it over, and I think Nick Chubb had one game against I think it was against the Ravens, and everyone was like, "Oh, Nick Chubb's back," and I'm like, "Well, no, I think they just benched the starters." Yeah. I think they were winning so much they just benched the starters, and Nick Chubb just ate up against the second string, and fair play to him. But I'm just not quite there on. I just think Woody Marks is the person who is going to absolutely, smash and be there as opposed to, Nick Chubb in that offense. So
no. Fair enough, yeah.
Do we have anything else we want to cover for the week? I can go through and I'd say if you're in the fence, here's some advice I would say. If you're on the fence and you're looking at, I always like to look at, we had a question in the Discord. You can join the Discord, hit the link below, and you get access to some of us and answer some questions, right? What I would say to some of these start-sit questions, right? There's a few things I look at. I look at wide receiver matchups versus cornerback matchups, and I also look at over-under totals and spread totals, right? So they're really important because I'm looking at the games that are over 50 points or around about 50 points. This week is a very defensive week. There is one match on the schedule that hits 50 points, which is Ravens v. Bears. Ravens are favored by 6.5. You've got the Broncos and Cowboys is 49.5. Everything else is 48, 47, 46, 45, 44. So it's projected to be a low-scoring week in the NFL. So when you have weeks like this where you have one game over 50, you don't have many games over 45. I'm looking at this week thinking, what's the best way to build this week from your team? Do you want to look at this from is there going to be a load of surprise 20-plus point fantasy performances? The bookies are telling us no. There's not a lot of blowout favorites. The only blowout favorite, and again, that's the other place you're looking at. Blowout favorites this week is Chiefs over the Commanders, 10.5 points. Patriots v Browns at 7, Colts v Titans 14. That's an interesting game. The Titans are terrible, but then where your points coming from, the Colts are like the most narrow team in history. There's not much there. It's Jonathan Taylor, Michael Pittman, Josh Downs, and Tyler Warren. So it's like, well, we know where they're coming from. Is there going to be a big surprise there? The only surprise is if they get up loads and DJ Giddens gets a run out and he puts up some points. But even then, is he putting up 20 plus? Probably not. And then Alec Pierce, I just don't think does this week. So, Panthers over the Bills, Eagles v the Giants. These are all 7s. And you got a few 6.5s. Like, there's not projected to be many close games and low scoring totals. And again, that's pointing to it that they're expecting most of these games to be over by the third quarter. And so we're expecting to see a lot of rotation. And so what Vegas is telling us, and again, you can agree, disagree, but I'm just talking through my process, is it's going to be a low fantasy scoring week. And if it's a low fantasy scoring week, I'm looking at this thinking there's not going to be as many of those random X factor scores that happen versus other weeks. And so when that happens, I tend to play a little more conservatively and tend to let my starters and the safer bets be the ones that carry through, because I don't see a big ridiculous score out of nowhere coming up. You might see Rashid Shaheed against the Bucks this week do something mad.
It's also get back to basics as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, if you're not sure and you think it's going to be low scoring, make sure you've got the best possible defense and the best possible kicker that you can get. And that's what I did yesterday. Is again, I went through every single team and looked at the rank, what the projections were for you, what you were looking at for defensive plays versus what I've got. And if there was much of a difference, I was like, yeah, okay, I'll take him. Same with kickers, and that could make the difference.
It's a really good point, because these are the types of weeks where you can manufacture a win out of nothing. If you're pretty close in projected scoring, those kickers and DSTs could be the difference. And again, low scoring games, I'd be targeting where there's high turnover potential. The Colts are going to be owned everywhere, so that's fine. I'll
give you a good example would be the Browns. So last week, the Browns would have been very high up on the list. This week, they're like middle of the road. So there's teams there that, say in your rankings, for example, that you're ranking maybe 10 positions higher than the Browns. So straight away, I could ship out the Browns for some of those other teams, likes of Tampa or what's name. So I'm trying to think who the other ones that I got.
Atlanta.
Yeah, Atlanta was another one. I think you had them as 4 or something. I've took Atlanta. I've took Tampa. Literally all my DSTs are in your top 4 or 5 max. Don't go any lower than that. And the same with the kickers as well.
Yeah, even Patriots, although I think they're probably owned a bit more. Eagles won't be readily owned.
The Patriots was one I got a couple of. But that makes such a difference. And then it's also like it's also trying to look at some of these games. If they're going to be a blowout and then they start bringing other people in, who are those people that they're likely to bring in for the last quarter who might get some extra points that you're not expecting?
Yeah, but you really only want those as your desperation plays where you think,
100%. Okay. But when there's 6 teams in a bye week, you might need that on some teams.
Sure. No, I do agree with that. And I think it's just down to where are you manufacturing points from? I think that's the real key. There's a few places you can do that.
Yeah. But someone posted before about the Ravens, and he said he's got Lamar and Flowers, and he was worried about having 3 of them. But then again, when you're looking at the line, it's 49.5 points. And the Ravens are expected to win by 6.5. So there's quite a few points there to go around.
100%. And I think that the Ravens will want to send a statement. This isn't a team that's 5-2 and is thinking about let's save our starters. They're coming off a bye. They're fresh. They need to send a statement out to their fans, to the league, to ownership that they mean business. They've done it by getting rid of the games machines and all those pieces in the locker room. I think they're going to want to really go out there, and if they can hurt the opposition and win by double digits, that's what they'll do. And I don't think they take it easy. I really think they'll go for the jugular this week, and I think there's an opportunity. The division's in play. The Steelers didn't capitalize. The Bengals didn't capitalize. They're in play in this division. They're probably still favorites in my book to win this division. Looking at the schedule, they can rip everybody apart. And I just think that now everyone's healthy, everyone's back, they will want to make a statement. So, I just think it's a good spot to start as many Ravens as you've got, because I think this is the time now to repay that faith.
that's where my only concern would be with the Colts players is because of the fact that they're playing the Titans. That could be over by halftime, and then they start taking people off.
And that's a very real possibility, that you know. But then I think you go, if that happens, then they've scored their points.
Yeah,
You know, I think there's two ways that you get points. One is through volume, the other is through performance. Ideally, you want players that do both, but ultimately, if Jonathan Taylor's run for 139 yards and 2 touchdowns at halftime and they pull him, you're probably taking that and you're thinking, yeah, that's fine. Like,
and take the kicker because they're going to get loads of points. Whoever gets.
Exactly that. There's opportunities here this week, but as you say, it's back to basics. It's stream the best DST.
When you're looking at that list, is there any of them jumping out to you that you don't agree with? As in, like, you're looking at something and saying it's low by a point and you think it's high, or you're looking at a high one thinking there's no way it's going to be that high. It could be like, because I'm looking at that Chiefs Commanders one, and the Chiefs are playing okay, but 12.5 points is a lot.
I mean, I've got 10.5 here on my book here, and yeah, I don't see double digit there, and I guess a lot of that is the dinging of Marcus Mariota. But I think that line will move once they know that Debo and McLaurin are going to play. I think that line will move into closer to 7. I don't know. If you told me that's 7, I'd go, yeah, okay, I could buy that. I tell you the one I'm going to give you one. You said you want one that goes over, one that goes under. The one I think that goes over is Eagles Giants. I think, I look at that game and think the Giants are really clicking on offense. 43.5 points doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel right. Like, the Eagles are coming off their best game of the season offensively. The Giants with Jackson Dart and Cam Scatterbo. That doesn't feel like a 23-20 game. Like, it doesn't feel like a 23-20, famous last words, right? It doesn't feel like a 23-20 game. Like, if I can see a pathway to one of these teams scoring 30 points on Sunday. So I don't buy that one at all. I think that one's
there's one I'm looking at
to be the second lowest total of the week. That doesn't make any sense to me. And the one I think that is over that I think can go under is Bucks Saints.
Yeah.
47.5. I can see the Buccaneers winning this like 21-9. I'm not saying that's going to happen. I see a world where that's in the realm of possibilities, where the Saints don't score more than 14 points and the Buccaneers just keep it close, or not close, but they win it, but they kind of manage the game, and it's like a 21-14. It's something like that. Like, I don't see I could see a world where that finishes with 30-ish points, like 35, 36, 38 points.
Yeah.
So I think that's an over.
The Falcons is one for me, not the over-under, but just they're saying the Falcons by 7 against Miami. I could see that being actually quite a bit more than 7.
I just think they're not playing well offensively. So I think the school of thought is that offensively they're not putting up points. Atlanta. If you look at Atlanta's points totals this season,
what does Bijan run against Miami though? Like
I mean he's going to put up loads of points. But if I look at, here's the Falcons' point totals this season, right? And this is what's been baked into that. 20, 22, 0, 34 against the Commanders, 24, 10.
They played some tough matches though, haven't they?
Yeah, I mean, they put 20 on the Bucks. They put 0 on Carolina, 22 on the Vikings, 24 on the Bills, 34 on the Commanders, which is wild, and then 10 on the 49ers who were banged up to anything. I don't think I'm not enamored with the play calling. I'm not enamored with the way that offense is functioning right now. But
Miami are bad.
Yeah, Miami are bad, but Miami are bad. They're dysfunctional. But I know the argument that someone's going to throw at me, like, Cleveland Browns threw 30-plus points on them. They did. 2 or 3 interceptions. He's not throwing 3 interceptions this week.
He might not even play it this week.
He will, because there isn't anyone else. But yeah, I look at that situation and think, I see your point, but I don't think the Falcons are great, and I think they're a team that are in a bit of crisis.
Yeah.
I think that's going to do it, mate. Hour and a half we've been cracking on here. I think we've gone through. We'll update the rankings tomorrow, so click the link to the Discord. Thank you so much for all the questions. It's always more fun when we get questions, and I'd love to get some strategy questions in here. You can post more questions in the Discord. You can use the rankings to come up with bits and pieces yourselves. Try out.
Just one more thing. The you need three. Have you three spaces? Is it?
At least three. So the mid-season elimination league, which is a charity league that we do, where I'll put a link in the YouTube and the other and the podcast link. So currently have at least 3 spaces we need to fill, but I'll keep rolling in levels of 10 as long as there's appetite. So I don't just need 3. If we get 13, 23, 33, happy with all of it, we'll start drafting probably over the weekend. So, let's get as many people signed up. It's donating some money to the charity to Crohn's and Colitis UK, who are a phenomenal charity. We're really trying to get close to. I think we're in touching distance of £6,000 raised this year. I would love to hit that this week. So, £5,945 we're on. So, I'd like to get more than 50 odd quid. Let's just keep pushing.
And then the other thing was the what's name. You're getting close to 1,000, aren't you? So I'm just wondering, like, there's episodes. So if there's people listening that have obviously listened to quite a few of these episodes, if anyone's got any ideas of how to make the 1,000th one a special one, we're open to ideas.
Yeah, I mean, I have a few ideas. It's just there's a combination of timing. Yeah, there's timing. There's a few other bits and pieces and moving parts. I think we start workshopping something this week. But
1,000's mad.
Yeah, yeah, a little bit. It's been a long journey, but it's been great, and I love doing this. So, we're not there yet. A few more to go, but yes, soon. 5 more weeks. Last question, and we're signing off. Trade Nico and Mason for Bucky and Cooper Cup. I just really want Bucky. I think that's an overpay.
Yeah, me too. Collins could do well towards the end of the season, potentially.
Yeah.
Mason's steady.
Yeah.
It's basically trading just for Bucky, aren't you, really?
Yeah, I think I'm not adverse. I'm not averse to trading Nico, but Nico and Mason, I would probably, if you're stacked at wide receiver and you can afford to lose Nico for Bucky Irving, I'm okay with that. But you got to deal with the fact he's not playing for 2 of the next 7 weeks. That's a thing. And then is he 100% when he comes back off the bye? Like, they ruled him out really quick this week. I'm not even sure he starts week 10. Like, I'm really not. You'll testify to this. I said very quickly the day he got injured, he's out till week 10.
The books don't give you any information, do they?
No, they don't. They really give you no information. I mean, Jason Light used to work for the Patriots. He's learned that lesson. He knows how to operate. I'm concerned it's multi-body part injury. The fact he was ruled out so quickly, it's not like it's definitely he's out week 10, but
I would hold that for now anyway.
I'm not against trading for him. I just think if you're going to trade him, you've got to be aware that there is an outcome that he doesn't play for 3 weeks.
I'd be wanting someone else in Cup's place if you were going to make that trade.
Yeah, or if you're surplus to requirements at wide receiver and Nico's not getting in your team, or he's like a flex play and you've got coverage, I'm okay with doing Nico for Bucky, but yeah, I'd probably want something else as well. Like, I think, and I'd be leaning on the narrative of there's no guarantee he's back in week 10. It's not like he's practiced. He's been real. If we got to the point this week where he practiced and it was like limited practice, or it was not practice, do not practice, limited practice, Saturday ruled out, then okay, he's probably going to play week 10. He's been ruled out like instantly. I'm like, yes, I know there's a bye week next week. I don't think that cures everything. We'll see. I don't know. Yeah, be a bit careful. But do us a favor, JR Smile, hit a like and subscribe. Really appreciate it. And leave some comments as well. Please, as well, if you're watching these videos, please leave comments. We're getting some really good views. We're getting a lot of traction. Really appreciate everything that everybody's doing. Please hit like and subscribe. That means a lot to us. We put a lot of work in this. As Stanley said, nearly 1,000 episodes. But also, just write some comments as well, preferably positive. Constructive's fine. I've removed a couple of ones that were disingenuous, which was fine. I don't remove many, but sometimes. Okay, 5 and 2. JD5, CMC, Bill, Mason, Aaron Jones. Okay, I can see where you want to ship. Aaron Jones, Nico. Thanks, JR. Tet, Lad.
Can you throw Lad in instead of Tet?
No, I wouldn't be shipping either of them.
I'd stay with what you've got, potentially.
I don't mind trading for Bucky, but one flex PPR. Yeah, see, there's a PPR thing as well. I don't know. I when I'm looking at that, I'm thinking, okay, if you've got Jones, I kind of don't hate flipping Mason now. Looking at what you've got there. I would be more inclined to flip Tet than Nico. I think I'd keep Lad. I think he comes on the end of the season. Or Hunter. Maybe trade Hunter high. Hunter off his big game. He's broken out, people. He's broken out. Trade Hunter. See, offer Hunter and Mason for Bill. For Hunter and Mason for
Bucky.
And say, I'm taking the risk here. I'm not so sure that Irving's going to come back week 10. He didn't even practice this week. It's not looking good. Don't oversell it, but maybe you could package Mason and Jones out if you want to get both of those out. But then, mind you need the fourth running back, I suppose. So yeah, maybe look at Mason. Yeah, Mason and Mason and Tet. I feel for Bucky probably works, but there is a risk to that. So take that risk on. I'm not telling you to do it. I'm just saying take that risk into consideration when you're doing it, because there's a chance Bucky is out a little bit longer.
But at least he is 5 and 2 though as well, so he can.
Yeah, so you've got the time to wait as well. Last question, trying to get out of here, folks. I'm torn between Herbert and Dart. Don't be torn. Play Jackson Dart. Simple. Jackson Dart is playing at a good level. Fantasy wise, it's perfect. First 3 weeks, he rushed over 50 yards in each game. First rookie to do that in a long time. Just play Dart. Matchups good against the Eagles.
QB3 the last 2 weeks.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think against the Vikings D, I've got Herbert at 11. I've got Dart at 7. Yeah, I'm playing Dart. As crazy as that is. That's going to do it. We're getting out of here. Nearly an hour 45 in. I thought we were going to be done at an hour 30, and here we are an hour 43 later. We do this. Eric, give us a like and subscribe. We answered your question. Please write some comments below. Do all the things you got to do. Enter the Elimination League. If you don't know where it is, search it on X. If you still don't know where it is, drop in the Discord. The links are in there. Yes, really want to have people in there. You can draft a team this weekend, raising some money for charity. I'm going to give away some prizes. I'm a former and inaugural winner of the Elimination League. Love it. It's basically like a supercharged, guillotine, chopped, whatever you want to call it, league, where we start cutting people pretty quickly. So you get a few weeks where everyone plays, and then it chops multiple people based on points for and then lowest score eventually. So, it's a fun concept. It's 10-team leagues. We can draft a whole new team, someone new to root for if we're having a bad fantasy season. So cheers, Eric. Thanks very much. Thanks for liking and subscribe. Hope we get more likes and subscribes. Danny, hope you have a great weekend. Nets and dubs. I'm going to do the same. We're going to get out there. We're going to fill the boats in the harbor. January's going to look good. We're all going to be having massive boat parades as those ships pull into the harbor. we'll all be chucking Lombardis like Tom Brady. Maybe we'll get ourselves some avocado ice cream as well. But listen, we got to get there first. We got to get into the dance. Play it safe. Don't play it safe. Be tactical. Go back to basics, as Danny said. Start your wide receivers. Start, pick up the best streaming options at DST and at kickers, because you're going to get from there the real, in a low-scoring week that this should be for fantasy football. They're going to be the edge plays you need. Until then, Rush Nation, see you next week. And as always, don't forget, keep rushing.